The camera fades in on a man, soaked in the rain, clutching a tiny bundle to his chest as he stumbles through a busy marketplace. His eyes are bloodshot. His voice trembles as he pleads with strangers. "Please, my baby hasn't eaten in 2 days. Just milk. Anything." People pass by, indifferent, some pulling their jackets tighter, others pretending not to see, until one woman stops. She stares at the man for a long moment. Her face softens. Slowly she kneels, reaching out toward the bundle in his arms. Cut to black, and the narrator's voice comes in. He came begging for milk for his baby, unaware that the woman who fed the child was the one he had wronged years ago. The story begins. It was a cold, grey morning in the city of Trenton. The streets shimmered with leftover rain, and the sky held the promise of another downpour. Life rushed by as usual. Cars honked, shopkeepers shouted out deals, and people scurried to get to work. But among them, trudging through the crowds, was a man who no longer moved with the world. His name was Aaron. His hair was unkempt, beard overgrown, clothes tattered, but none of that mattered, not to him. Not when his 6-month-old daughter, Leela, wrapped in a worn shawl, whimpered in his arms, her cries hoarse from days of hunger. Aaron had once been a proud man. Years ago he'd had a job, a small apartment, and a wife he adored. But life hadn't been kind. After Leila, his wife, died giving birth to their daughter, Aaron spiraled. He couldn't keep the job, he couldn't afford the rent. Grief consumed him, and within months, everything he had built crumbled. Now he was on the street, with a child to care for and no one to turn to. He had tried shelters, all full. He'd begged for work. No one wanted a man who looked like he might collapse at any moment. But hunger does strange things. On this morning, pride no longer stood in the way. He stood outside a grocery store, the bundle in his arms, trembling with shallow breaths. "Please, milk, just a little milk for my baby." Most didn't even look at him. A few shook their heads. One woman hissed, "Get a job." Before hurrying away, he was about to give up. When she came, a woman in her early 40s, elegant, composed, dressed in a crisp brown coat. Her eyes were sharp, the kind of gaze that made people feel small. She walked right past him, then stopped. Slowly she turned. Aaron didn't notice her at first. Not until she knelt and said softly, "May I see her?" He flinched. Years on the street had made him suspicious. "Why?" he asked, clutching Leela tighter. "I'm a mother," she said. Or, "I was." The softness in her voice disarmed him. She reached out slowly, and Aaron reluctantly allowed her to look at the baby. Leela's cheeks were sunken, her lips cracked, but she still looked up at the woman with innocent, trusting eyes. "She's beautiful," the woman whispered. Without another word, she stood up and walked into the store. Minutes later, she returned, with warm milk, baby food, diapers, and a small pink blanket. Aaron didn't know what to say. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. The woman just smiled gently. "Feed her." He did, right there on the curb. Leela suckled hungrily, her tiny fingers clutching at the bottle. Tears filled Aaron's eyes, and he didn't even bother to wipe them away. The deeper connection over the next few days, the woman, who introduced herself only as Mira, returned. Each time she brought something, a warm sandwich, a new pair of socks, more food for the baby, but she never stayed long. Aaron was wary at first. He didn't understand her kindness. No one had helped him in months. Why now? Finally, on the 6th day, he asked, "Why are you doing this?" Mira hesitated. She looked away toward the street. "Because I owe someone forgiveness, and maybe this is how I find it." Aaron didn't understand. But he didn't press. That night, when he curled around Leila beneath the overpass, he thought of Mira's words, forgiveness. He hadn't thought about that word in a long time. The past unveiled the next week. Mira did something different. She invited him to a small cafe. She had arranged for him to bathe and shave at a shelter first. Cleaned up, Aaron looked almost like the man he used to be. At the cafe, she told him her story. "I had a son," she said, eyes distant. His name was James. He was wild, difficult, always chasing something. One night he got into a fight, a stupid argument that turned violent. He was arrested. Aaron stiffened. Mira continued. "The man he fought, he ended up in a coma. His life shattered. My son was sentenced to prison. 5 years. She looked at Aaron now, right in the eyes. "That man was your brother, wasn't he?" Aaron's fork dropped. Memories rushed in like a wave. His brother, Jacob, had never fully recovered. He was brain damaged, barely spoke anymore. Aaron had spent months nursing rage toward the man who'd done it, and by extension, that man's family. "You're his mother," he whispered. Mara nodded. "I thought I would hate you if we ever met, and maybe you thought the same of me, but when I saw your baby, starving," her voice cracked. "I saw the same desperation I had once seen in my son's eyes, and I realized pain doesn't choose sides, it just spreads, unless someone chooses to break the cycle." Resolution and healing, there was silence between them for a long time. Then Aaron said, "I hated your son for years. I still do sometimes." Mara nodded. "I hate what he did too, but hating each other won't save our children." That moment changed something. Mara helped Aaron find a job, part-time work in a bookstore run by a friend. She helped him get into transitional housing. Over time, she became part of Layla's life, not because she felt guilt, but because she chose hope. Final scene closing full circle a year later. The same street where Aaron had once begged for milk saw a different scene. Leela, now healthy and giggling, clutched a teddy bear as Aaron walked beside her, a lunchbox in one hand and a tiny hand in the other. Mara walked a few paces behind them, smiling. And then the narrator's voice returned. He came begging for milk for his baby. Unaware, the woman who fed the child had once lost her own, and through shared pain, they built something stronger than forgiveness. They built a future. He came begging for milk for his baby, and where the woman who fed the child had once lived a life twisted with regret, pain, and the heavy burden of a past she could never undo. The first time Mara saw Aaron, he looked more ghost than man, hollow-eyed, soaked from the rain, clutching a bundle of old cloth with trembling hands. She almost didn't stop. She had walked past men like him before. It's easier that way, safer. But something about the haunted way he whispered, "Please, she's just a baby," made her heart stutter in her chest. So she turned, and when she looked into his arms and saw the pale, weak infant, eyes barely able to stay open, she didn't see a stranger's child. She saw her grandson, a boy she never held. Years ago, Mira's life had been one of order and control. She ran a business, paid her taxes, donated to children's charities, and smiled when she passed street beggars without stopping. Her son, James, had always been the wild thread in the fabric of her well-woven life. He ran with boys from broken homes, got into fights, drank before he turned 18, and screamed that she never understood him. Mira tried to fix him with therapy, boarding schools, threats, and finally silence. When he was 20, James got into a drunken fight outside a bar, struck another man with a bottle, and shattered not just a skull, but two families. His victim, Jacob, was a quiet, hard-working young man with a bright future. After the attack, he spent months in a coma and woke up someone else, unable to speak, unable to work, a ghost of himself. James was sentenced to 5 years. Mara didn't visit him in prison. She couldn't bear to look at what he'd become. And somewhere in her heart, she didn't forgive him for ruining her illusion of a respectable life. When he was released, James disappeared. Mara didn't look for him, but pain has a way of finding its way back home. When Mira saw Aaron on the street, she didn't recognize the man. She didn't know he was Jacob's brother, didn't know the connection between them until later. In that moment, she only saw a desperate father trying to keep his baby alive. And something cracked open in her. She fed the baby because she couldn't feed her own guilt. She helped him because she had once failed to help the one person who needed her most. Each day she returned to that spot, sometimes bringing food, sometimes clothes, but always watching. Slowly the layers fell from Aaron's eyes. He stopped flinching when she approached. He began to speak, not just about his hunger or his child, but about his wife, Layla, and how grief had pulled the ground out from under him. And when he finally asked, "Why are you helping me?" she told him the truth. The moment he learned who she was, the mother of the man who destroyed his brother, Aaron felt like the air had been sucked from his lungs. The rage that had once kept him warm on cold nights surged again. But then he looked down at Leela, full and safe in the arms of the woman whose family had once destroyed his, and something shifted. Pain recognized pain. Grief met grief, and in that quiet exchange they both saw what hate had cost them. Mira didn't ask for forgiveness. She simply kept showing up, and Erin didn't offer it, not at first. But day by day, through every bottle she brought, every ride to a shelter, every awkward conversation, a fragile bridge began to form between two people who had every reason to hate each other. 1 year later, that bridge had become a path they both walked willingly. Erin got a job, got off the streets. Mira became part of Layla's world, not to replace her grandmother, but to honor the second chance she'd been given. In a world full of sharp edges, they had found softness in each other's broken places. And maybe that was enough. End message on screen: kindness doesn't erase the past, but sometimes it gives us the courage to face it together. Inspired by true events.